Welcome to the Huddle Within podcast, where we go beyond the surface to uncover the real impact of sports on our lives, whether it's lessons of resilience, the passion that fuels us, or the stories that connect us all. This is where the game gets personal. I am Daniel, a regular sports fan just like you, and together we'll explore what sports truly means beyond the surface. So step right into the huddle and let's get into it. What is going on, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Huddle Within podcast. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in today. As you can probably tell by the quality of the camera, I've decided to opt into using my iPhone. Bought myself a nice little tripod for about $30 on Amazon and thought I'd use that to kind of give you the landscape a little bit more clearer. My old webcam that I used was nice. It did a good service, but I found that it wasn't giving me the quality that I sort of wanted. So just trying now with this iPhone. It's a little bit above my height, so excuse me if I'm not really looking directly into your eyes like that because it is quite high. But yeah, new camera, new look. Hopefully it's a lot more clearer for you guys as well. We've made it to episode 18, which is pretty cool as well. Started the podcast a little over 3 months ago, just at the start of March. And now we've hit up to episode 18, which is quite awesome. So thank you guys for those that have tuned in to any of those 17 episodes. I really appreciate it. And to this one as well, I also appreciate that. If you have been listening or if it's your first time listening, it'd be great if you could leave a 5-star review wherever you do get your podcasts, just so that more people can view and listen to this podcast and take in all aspects of the deeper meaning of sports, which is what I'm trying to do on this podcast. A lot of solo episodes, but we also have guests as well, as you probably all know if you're the ones that have viewed for a long time as well. And I know there's a few views from different parts of the world, so feel free to engage with me and leave a comment below on any of the episodes if you want to kind of join in. I'm in the plans of doing like a bit of a competition at the moment. So if you guys are interested in this, it will involve winning potentially some money. Unfortunately, I'm not someone that has a lot of money at the moment to hand out for free. You'll have to put in a small stake. I promise you it's not more than $5. You have a chance to win potentially $500. So look out for that. If you are interested, please leave a comment below. I will probably put something up on my Instagram or TikTok regarding that. So yeah, have a look in below and watch this space because I am very excited to kind of do this. But the only way that I can do it is with obviously listeners and people interested and wanting to put in an easy $5 there. I don't make money off the prize or anything. I promise that. It's simply just to get you guys a bit of a reward for your hard work if you're a betting person as well, just to have a bit of a gamble and potentially come out with some money there. So again, I won't reveal too much here. I will reveal it on a reel coming by, just depending on the traction that I get based on this episode as well. And before we kind of dive into the episode, I thought I'd give a bit of background on some sporting news. So we obviously got the Club World Cup starting from this time of recording. There's probably a few games that have happened. But Auckland City just got smacked up 10-0 to Bayern Munich. And it's just funny how Auckland's in it. They're not the actual Auckland FC team from the A-League. They're just some random New Zealand team that I think that plays in their top level. I'm not really sure about the New Zealand league itself, but the A-League team doesn't compete in this. So it's pretty much a bunch of part-time or full-time workers that have football as a weekend job. So they've just faced Bayern Munich and got obliterated 10-0, which was, yeah, not a shock, but probably quite a big exposure there for them, not in the right ways either. And then you had Inter Miami drawing 0-0 as well with Messi there. What I think about the Club World Cup, honestly, I think it's just them competing with UEFA, with the Champions League. But I will look out for it and kind of break down a few things there moving forward. The favourite that I've got to win it is probably Manchester City. I know PSG just won the Champions League, but I think that Man City are the strong favourites coming out of here. And I'd love to know how the hell some teams have qualified, because I'm looking at Chelsea and I'm thinking, how did they qualify and how did a team like Liverpool not qualify when they did win the Premier League as well? So don't really know too much about that as well. But again, we'll have to wait and see as to, or I have to have a look at some research and see how that's the case. But anyways, thought I'd do a bit of a run of the Club World Cup, and then we had the first trade of the new season for the NBA. I addressed it on my emergency huddle as well. Desmond Bain is going to Orlando Magic for KCP, Cole Anthony, 4 first-round picks, and an unprotected pick. And I had a chance to listen and look at the picks. They're not too bad. They will probably be outside the lottery, but 4 first-round unprotected picks for Desmond Bain is quite crazy. And I don't see Orlando going into the lottery. And if that happens, then Grizzlies have won this trade full on. But Desmond Bain is probably what they really need at the moment, Orlando Magic. They are lacking a third option, especially guard scoring, and someone that doesn't necessarily need to handle the ball 24/7 as well. He's very much a person that can hang around the corners, catch and shoot, but also do a bit of playmaking if necessary as well. So I don't know what his role is going to be with the Magic, whether they put him as a point guard. I don't think that's his position anyway. I think he's better as a 2 guard. Having Jalen Suggs handle the ball with Franz Wagner, with Paolo Banchero, and then getting Desmond Bain off the catch will help them a lot. KCP, they were hoping to get something out of him last season, but he ended up being a massive bust for them. So glad they were able to get rid of that contract as well. And to take that contract, Grizzlies asked for 4 unprotected first-round picks, which is something they could use for their future, maybe in potential trades looking forward. Now they're in a position where do they keep these picks and keep Ja and Jaren Jackson to kind of build a team there, or do they just full blow tank, get maybe 6 first-round picks for Ja? Or if Bain is getting out for 4, then Ja definitely can get traded out for 6. And the same with Jaren Jackson. I think Jaren Jackson is probably the more interesting piece. I did mention on my reel that it could be Ja Morant, whether he's staying or going, being that he's sort of the franchise player. But I think Jaren Jackson is probably the more tradable asset in terms of what a lot of competing teams need. I know there's a bit of circling around potentially all the time it's this team, but the Lakers could definitely use someone like Jaren Jackson that can protect the ring and also shoot. So look out for potential Jaren Jackson trades and Ja Morant trades if it does happen. But if not, we'll most likely see this team accumulate the picks that they have and I guess just work with what they've got. So yeah, lots to really uncover there. It's just great to see trades. I love NBA trades. So when they come through, going to try address them and give my opinions as well because they're always really fun. And I kind of wish AFL had a bit of a mid-season trade to make it more interesting in the AFL. But again, trades is just always the fun part of sports for me. So just wanted to quickly address those. And without further ado, we'll get into the topic today. And as you can tell by the title, it is the art of bad calls and the hidden truth behind these game-changing decisions. So this one's sort of been sitting with me for a while. So I guess as a player that competes amateurly in sports, I have this like hate against refs at times. And sometimes it can be very, very negative and really affect the landscape of the game. But as we all know, as fans and as players, there is just this certain hate and like anger we get to officiating, and especially when it comes to bad calls specifically. And when it comes to bad calls, you obviously get those calls that eventually pretty much cost you a game, or it's a moment of the season if you're a fan that this match is really important, and then the refs find a way to ruin it to make a terrible call as well. So something that I kind of wanted to address. I'm not going to act like I'm sort of an expert here about how refs go and whatnot, but I want to give a bit of a both-sided perspective on this. So how a bad call can affect a team or a fan, and also how a bad call can ultimately affect a referee as well. Because in the end, we do go on about how athletes are humans and they don't really deserve abuse. But the refs are kind of in the same boat. Do they really deserve the abuse they're getting? I've actually found, like I'm looking at it now, one stat that was pretty crazy. This is coming from football related, so soccer. 3 in 5 referees experience abuse every 2 matches. So for every 2 games that they get, 3 of 5 of them are getting abused, which is quite crazy. Like there is a reason why no one grows up and says they want to be a referee. They turn up like hating them or they just wouldn't be able to do the position. And if we really look at and break it down, despite all the abuse we give referees, we have to sort of respect the fact that they have the balls to actually become a referee. Whether they're a failed sporting person, they have decided to take this role that comes with a lot of abuse and a lot of scrutiny. Um, if I look at baseball in a perspective, there is a big telling kind of stat that there is over 34 missed ball and strike calls. So for those that don't know what ball and strike means, so strikeout is essentially if you pitch the ball, the batter misses it and the player catches it. Um, that's obviously a strike. And then a ball is like if the ball is not pitched in a certain square, a certain position, it's basically sort of like a foul ball. But essentially, if you get four of those, you get to first base for free and walk in. And it's up to the batter to really judge whether it's a ball or not, if they leave it or not. But essentially, 34,000 of those calls combined in one season were miscalled. And that's on average, if you count baseball over 100 games, it's about 14 per game. And this actually eventuated into 55 games ending on this bad blown call. So a mistake, an incorrect ball or strike call, 55 games were impacted in that. And if you really think about that holistically, that is a crazy amount, really determined by a referee's poor decision. Now, a referee, I'm sure, doesn't want to make a poor decision, but they inevitably sometimes will. But then there's got to be a debate and a question whether they are making too many decisions wrong, or if they're essentially always just basically, if I'm trying to find the word, just wrong and not a good ref. Like I can't even find the word, but just like if I take out the ref and in fact that's the human, and I focus on the playing and the fan side, it's like you're grinding your whole season, you're working so hard, and then a referee, one missed call just kind of costs you a game. Like, isn't that frustrating? Like, it happens everywhere, it happens in every single sport. So, like, it's such a hard one because, like, you wanna understand the ref and know that they don't want to make mistakes. But when they keep making mistakes, like, how can you not be frustrated, especially when there is so much on the line as well? But yeah, as I said, I'm not a psychologist, but just someone that plays a bit of sport knows that when something unfair happens, it's so hard to not feel as though you're getting unfair call there and there's nothing needs to be addressed. And the worst thing is basically when the referee doesn't even want to hear from you or want to talk to you or explain things. Like for me, the referee can be a hard position, but when I do something wrong or I expect the referee to make a call and a decision, I just want to know most of the time why have they made that decision and why have they decided that that was going to be that decision that they made. Even one simple sentence, look, this is not what I'm seeing, is enough for me. But it's the refs that don't talk to you or when you ask a question, tell you to go away. It sort of just makes you frustrated more. And it just feels as though that they're not being in seeing the position of the game. Now, I understand that they probably cop a lot of abuse from probably me. So it's very hard for them to come up with a bit of a stigma and I guess be desensitized to that. So it comes to a point where they just don't have the energy to really hear it. But at the same time, it's just something that is a bit of my pet peeve. What I get frustrated with is them not being able to justify, explain the decisions. And the refs that tend to do that, I find that are really, really good refs. When it comes to them getting abused, it's not right. It's not fair. They should not be getting abused at all. They should be held more accountable for decisions, which I'll get to a little later. But again, they should not be abused to their level. We need to understand that in a lot of games, especially in professional setting, there is a lot of fans. If you're playing a home fan, if you're in the home fans, they're always going to be against you, whatever decision you make. The speed of the game is really fast, and it's so many things going on at the same time. Like a normal sporting athlete, it takes a while for the referees to get into the game and understand what's going on. And I feel like that's the same as well for refs. I mean, as in players, it takes to get into the game, but it's the same with referees. So when they do make incorrect decisions, it might be because of that as well. From some of the research that I have done and kind of looked into, it is something that is very prevalent, is that one bad call does actually affect their confidence and their foes on the game. and the way that they're kind of receptive to that information can really change the outcome of how they referee a game. Now, that's on some cases. There are certain referees that just think they're bigger than the game, and they do try to make it about them. I look at Scott Foster in Game 4 of the finals. He did a terrible refereeing job, calling fouls and whatnot, and just the way that he kind of went about it, it just seemed as though that he wanted to make it about him. But then there's a lot of refs that are new and inexperienced that are really trying to learn and kind of get a grasp on the game, and they still cop unnecessary abuse as well. What I will say though is that a lot of players get scrutinized into the media, and there is kind of, I guess, a performance or a stat sheet as to what and how the referee is performing. I feel as though the referees get very protected by the league, and I sort of understand why, because there's obviously a need for the referees to be there. But it would be great to kind of get like the NBA does it perfectly, like a 2-minute report, but it'd be great to get like a full referee stat padded report on their performances as well. And you never know what could happen. It could be the fact that they feel discouraged, or there can be a sort of competition to wanting to be the best ref. The more accountability that is placed on a referee making an incorrect decision, the more, I guess, feeling that they want to be better and also improve as well. You never know. And that's probably where we can filter out the terrible refs from the good refs, whereas the good refs are the ones that want to improve and make decisions and look at their stats and think, okay, I made this many non-calls, that person's made that many non-calls, I need to get to this level to be a better ref than him. And it becomes a bit of a competition to see who the best refs are, rather than the ones that are quote unquote most experienced. The more accountability I think that you put on refs, I think the better that the job will be for them on the court, because they're trying to do the best that they can on the pitch. They don't really get scrutinized in that way. Players do, and then in the end of the day, if you're not good enough, you don't play. And I think that should be the same for refs. If you're not good enough as a ref, you should not be a ref. And it feels like they don't get accounted for any mistakes they made. The only way they do get accounted for is through abuse and through fans. And it impacts fans a lot. I've got the banner there, the New Orleans Saints, the 2018 conference finals, when there was a 4 and down, I'm pretty sure, on a 5th down or something, where we actually got a no offensive pass interference when it was a clear first down catch. That costed the New Orleans Saints on potentially making the Super Bowl and potentially winning it. They were the favorites that year to win it. And because of that no call in the 4th quarter, or incorrect call, it cost them a chance to win a Super Bowl. And now it's been 7 years since, and the Saints have been nowhere near it. You never really know what one decision can make. The referee costing that decision for the Saints to win a Super Bowl could make them an attractive marker, could have made them be like the Kansas City Chiefs and win multiple in the future, but we'll never know because of that reffing decision. So a lot of people hold that as a real frustration in their mind when they're thinking about those things. And it's just something to really consider as well, the ref's impact in a game. If they do make wrong decisions, there is going to be backlash, because it really affects millions and millions of people, especially when their team is getting costed in a certain game or moment. I'll get into a few more examples of that later, but I just quickly wanted to talk about the makeup call myth about referees. And this is something that I've found now to be extremely, extremely true. So when a referee makes a incorrect decision, and I'll put it in a football perspective because it's probably more easy for me to understand. When there was supposed to be like a certain foul that was played and they didn't call the foul, they would make another makeup call to, I guess, reward you for the previous call, if that makes sense. I've always thought that was like a myth growing up, but as I've just grown up into it, it's so true. Like, I'm going to repeat it again. We'll do a basketball one. You make a layup and the referee doesn't call a foul on you, and they knew that was the incorrect decision. They'll go and affect the opposite team by making an incorrect decision to them as well. So not only are you pissing off the first team for not giving them a call, you're actually favoring them now in that moment to give a makeup call for that mistake that you made, and ultimately you're affecting the other team as well. Like, does everyone know like about that? Like, I don't think I'm the only one, but that's something that I think refs also do subconsciously. And again, it goes back to them just being human as well, but they're really just trying to keep the peace in that situation too. So it's just kind of wild, because you're not actually really playing the same game. It's all tilted by just emotion and kind of the perspective of a player, or perspective of a referee as well. And I did mention the crowds and all that, and it gets into everyone's head, but it is a hard job. I have to say it's such a hard job. In AFL though, I think AFL has the worst officiating of all sports ever. And everyone, we call them umpires, but everyone blames the umpires for this. But I have to blame the AFL because the rules are so inconsistent. You got every rule in AFL that is given is actually extremely subjective. The way that you view holding the ball and the way that I would view holding the ball would be two completely different things depending on the team we go for. The referees or umpires have to make a decision based on how they interpret holding the ball to be. The rule for holding the ball is essentially if you hold the ball for too long and you don't release it correctly, whether it's a handball or a kick, they will give it holding the ball. But then there are times where as soon as someone gets tackled, the ball just gets dropped on the ground. So there's always that thing where is it an incorrect disposal? Is it a holding the ball? Sometimes the player drags it in and the referee or umpire won't give holding the ball, and in another instance they will. So the lack of consistency in that rule is something difficult. It's same with the deliberate out of bounds as well. There are times where people just tap it out and it's not given, and then there's times where you kick it and it's not given, and it's just really hard for umpires to really fathom that. The non-15 is another crazy one. There is not a specific measurement on the pitch to actually determine whether the ball is carried 15 meters or not when kicking it. So it's really hard for umpires to really give the correct decision when all the rules are kind of flawed as well. It doesn't mean that they're not making the right decisions. It just means that it's a lot harder for them to kind of make decisions when the rule is so objective. But in saying that, when I go back to the accountability thing and mentioning that, this would be a very good example for the AFL to run it, because the AFL protect their umpires so much, it's not even funny. And I think it's because low key, they know that there's not many people that want to sit there and say they want to be an AFL umpire. But again, accountability is needed. AFL players get a lot of abuse and umpires do too, but I feel as though that AFL players are held more accountable, and that's what frustrates everyone there. So having to see how AFL is kind of run with that is quite interesting, and something I noticed too. It is extremely, extremely frustrating there. And then we look at VAR. And now VAR, video assistant refereeing, everyone has mixed feelings of it, whether we should keep the VAR or whether we don't. I think for me, VAR is a tool that is essential and is very good for the game. The problem is, regardless of whether VAR is intact or not, it is just a tool to view and see the situation or the incident again. And ultimately, it is still up to the referee to subjectively put his opinion as to whether that will be a wrong call or not. And when that's the case, even if we see it 4 or 5 times on replay, the referee is going to see it how they're going to see it, and it just gives them another chance for them to review the situation, whether it's correct or not. It doesn't actually fix the decision. It literally just gives them a set of eyes. When it comes to penalties for football, and when it comes for, I guess, fouls in basketball, and even for football and all other sports, what frustrates me about the VAR is how they tick it to slow motion. And slow motion is such a different way of viewing something than viewing it realistically. I understand that you want to get the best view and understand in small frame rates to really see if it's a foul or not. But when you put the video in slow motion, it takes out the actual real perspective view at real time as to how it's seen, if that makes sense. Like, I can see a foul come through, and in real time, it might not look like a foul. But if I put it in very, 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 very slow motion, or very slow, you can really see whether it's a foul or not. And okay, that might help, but at the same time, it's not real time. So VAR kind of tricks you in a way where they make it slow motion for you to just see it's a foul. So any small contact will look bigger, because if you touch yourself real slow, you'll see contact. But how is the contact given? How hard is the contact provided? Whereabouts is the ball exactly when it's been contacted? Is it a split second late? Is it a split second early? These things sort of affect the referee as well. And then they end up having to just second guess their decisions as well. So ultimately, I think the way that VAR could improve is by potentially just fixing the way that the VAR is used, probably focusing more on real time, not so much focus on how slow the recording is and how slow they want to go to really see it, and also being able to make a decision quicker. And no, okay, if that's not a foul, that's it. We move on. That's it. But there's always going to be arguments because it's going to be like, oh, you have the camera, you should use it better. But then that's going to waste time. And then if you don't use it, they're going to be like, oh, well, how are we going to know exactly what it is? So regardless, it's going to create controversies. And having VAR again is a tool that I think is good enough. And if it's used correctly, then it's a great tool to be used. I feel like in the World Cup they use it really well. In other parts of Europe, but in the Premier League, terrible because the refs there, they're not doing a good job and they're not getting held accountable, unfortunately. And then when you have a team of referees that that are there and they don't are not able to convolute and like find a decision, it also is pretty frustrating as well. So yeah, I think I'm gonna, as you can probably tell, I'm leaning towards like the dislike of referees, but I do understand that the job's hard and I would never want to be a referee for that reason. But again, there is so many ways that the refs can improve in that aspect, especially while they use VAR technology. In terms of AFL, their goalpost cameras suck. They need to find a way to fix that. I don't know like what cameras they're using. They're filming on potatoes. I don't even know, but the fact that they're using those camera qualities when there's so much better technology out there is something that is a bit bizarre to me. I'm gonna go down deep into some games where a few that stood out for me that I guess really showed poor refereeing and how this can be really frustrating. There was a fifth down game. So for those that don't know what a fifth down is, essentially in NFL, when you get your fifth down, you're actually supposed to transfer the ball over by a big kick, or they say punt. A game between Colorado and Missouri back in 1990 showed that the referee accidentally gave Colorado an extra down, a fifth down instead of four, and they scored on that play and won the game. And that meant that they ended up being the national champions of the league. So one bad decision, not being able to understand and recognize that this was a fourth down, the ball needs to be transferred over, or there needs to be a field kick attempt, really costed Missouri the chance to win a championship. And then you have to see, do you wonder why the fans and the players get frustrated with the referees when they ultimately controlled the destiny of which team was the national champions? You had Barcelona versus Chelsea back in 2009 Champions League, 4 penalty shouts denied, and all of them were blatant penalty calls. Everyone lost it mentally. You had Balak literally borderline pushing the guy. He did the most he could do in not trying to get a card while still being abused at the same time. Like he had his hands out, I'm putting in the video, and his chest was like hitting the referee, but he wasn't really touching him. But you could tell how frustrated he was. You saw Jogba after the game basically screaming out that it's a disgrace, and the referee doesn't get held accountable for this. And then you wonder why they get abused again. It's not right. The abuse is not correct. But the way, what I'm trying to get at is that if they're held more accountable for this, does the decisions fix? Are the decisions improved? Sorry. Do they get improved? Will they be better? Because when we heard about the referee, he continued his job. He continued doing what he was doing and no one really said anything. Everyone just knew who he was, but there was no any accountability given to him. You also had this in 2003 of 23 with Luis Diaz scoring a goal with VAR calling it a no goal, and they basically confirmed that it wasn't, and then they realized they messed it up after the game restarted, and you could actually hear the audio in the VAR room talking about this as well, which was even more embarrassing. So just something to look out for too, that even when people are using VAR, they're not using it correctly, and that was very much demonstrated with Luis Diaz in that game as well. So after all these kind of debates, and then again, the referees have a hard job. I always say this. I don't think they're bad. I don't think that they rig games. I just think it's a hard job, and we have to kind of accept that as a community and as a sporting team that bad reffing calls are part of the game. And to be honest, it sort of gives a bit of a discussion point and a debate as well, and makes kind of the game a little bit more interesting. The real question is, so if you really want to improve them, can there be a bit more support and training? Can there be more accountability for these referees? In my opinion, can they have more accountability when they make these mistakes? Do players and I guess coaches that abuse referees or even fans have a bit more empathy and understand how tough the job is? Maybe they just need to probably research more into referees, or can there be a bit more coaching to just fix that mental part? Um, do we have to understand how much weight we put on a single moment and how big important that is? Because I don't have the answers. I don't really know how referees can be fixed. I just know that it's a massive problem, and you can really see how one bad call can impact the game in a sense. But at the same time, abuse and stuff is not really going to change anything. The only thing that's going to change is, I guess, whatever each person can do better. Like, who's in control of what? Can we understand that the refs are human beings? Can the referees get more accountability from the leagues? Can they also own up to their mistakes and be a bit more human at times? Can some referees not be as arrogant as they are? Can they be a little bit more understanding of the situation and magnitude? And can also players do the same? It's such a hard topic to talk about, and we can layer it in so many ways and really look at each perspective and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is, there is beauty in chaos. Ultimately, as I mentioned before, referees, they create a bit of chaos, and it also gives a bit of publicity and news and stuff to go around. And in a weird way, it kind of gets rid of the accountability from your team as well. There's always someone to blame. But could you imagine we had robotic referees, and referees that just to the T made perfect decisions all the time? AI just took over. There was no referees, and there would be just perfect decisions. And imagine a robot refereeing your game, and you wouldn't be able to argue back at them because they don't have any emotion and they're not a human. I feel that the games, all sporting games, would be extremely boring with accurate AI referees, because they would just over police the game. Every single rule that they'll see, they'll interpret it right because they're the robot, they're the AI, they know everything. And it'll just remove that emotion part of the game, which we well and truly love. And that's why we support the sports that we do, is because of that emotion, our attachment to our teams and our attachment to having community as well. And referees play a big part in that. Maybe not in the best ways, maybe not in ways where we are pleased with what they do. But I think if it wasn't for having referees, it would be a perfect game. And we don't want our games to be perfect. We want to embrace the imperfections of our game. And that's what makes it relative to us humans as well. Because we're not here to watch near perfection. We're actually here to watch the best human capabilities we have. And that's through sports, and how our human capabilities can be. And it's still not perfect. And I think there's a beauty in that. And I think that's probably my takeaway from discussing this. And as I've gotten into this conversation, and as I've spoke about refereeing, that's kind of probably the conclusion that I've come up with. But I'll probably end up abusing a referee again in the future, and going to try to take these notes and tools. It's a bit of a learning for myself, and try to understand referees more as well. And to any referee that is listening, I would love to have you on as a guest and talk about this a bit more. Or maybe I'll look to get a referee to talk about this topic a little bit more. But I respect any referee that is actually putting their hand up to officiate any sport. And I think that's something that we should also appreciate as a group of people that love and appreciate sports as well. They officiate our game. If it's not for them, the game would probably go out of control. And we're also given an opportunity to just vent to them as well, and throw their frustrations. So respect to any referees. I might not show it or prove it, and a lot of people don't, but I think deep down everyone respects the job of a referee. But anyway, it's been your boy Daniel. Another episode of the Huddle Within in the books. Again, looking to do a bit of a competition, as I mentioned at the start of the episode. So if you still hang around here and you've listened to the whole episode, thank you so much. Feel free to leave a 5-star review as well. And again, if you guys have been listening and you're in the background and you haven't put a comment, feel free to do so. Don't be shy. I'd love to know what my community wants and what people want to listen to and what topics they want to discover. At the moment, I'm struggling to get a few guests. I'm really trying to get some guests moving forward. I do love interviewing people, so hopefully I can get a few more down the line as well, and put out some of that content as well. I do sometimes find it difficult to sort of talk about things alone, so it's always good to get someone to bounce ideas off. But again, thank you very much for tuning into this week's episode of The Huddle Within, and I will catch you guys next week. Cheers. So that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Huddle Within podcast. I appreciate you for tuning in and being part of this community where we go beyond the game and into what really matters. If this episode resonated with you, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who sees sports just the way that we do. And hey, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on my social medias, which will be linked below. Send in your thoughts and even be part of a future episode. Until next time, keep that passion alive, stay in the huddle, and remember, it's always deeper than the game. Cheers.